of Politically Correct. The idea of this feature came through the people working with us, who wanted to know a fresh perspective on neutral, non-party fresh perspective on the ongoing processes in the country. The people would like to know from the point of view of moral rationality, constitutionality of a particular event. ADS, as a part of its campaign for progressive thinking and action, would like to bring in that fresh perspective. We have with us Dr. Giri, who is an ideologue on international progressive political thinking, to tell us what is politically correct in each episode. Hello, Professor Giri. Welcome to our show. May I begin with asking, what is progressive politics?
Thank you, Anugya. I'm glad that you asked this question. Politics is of different kind. There are different ideologies, conservative, liberal. You have capitalist, Marxist, Leninist in our country and elsewhere. But what is progressive politics today is the kind of version of the center-left politics, where you occupy the center space as well as you initiate changes in the society through reforms, of course, and through political and social reforms. Progressive politics consists of at least 7 principles which are universally accepted. It started really from French Revolution, where liberty, equality, fraternity became the watchwords of progressive thinking. We, in a progressive circle, which is broadly called the Social Democratic Network, we adapted these principles and we expanded on them and made them into 7 principles which capture the political life in contemporary period across the world. So the first one would be liberty. We will not go into details, but let me outline the principles today. Maybe in future episodes we could discuss them. So liberty, equality, then solidarity. The next one would be social justice, that's the 4th one. 5th would be identity. You see, the Karl Marx, in his famous philosophy, he somehow downplayed the identity in political and public life, but that has really bounced back. He saw in everybody a worker, and he said if you destroy the capitalist system, a new person will be born and he will be a worker, which was correct for the time being. But apart from being a productive agent, you are also concerned with several other things which give you multiple identities. Then pluralism. You know, when you have several identities, how do you really cohere them in a society? So that is through the principle of pluralism, where you respect each identity, yet you live together. So that sense of togetherness in the face of diversity in our country is called unity in diversity. Old principle, but in a new bottle, as they call it. Yeah. And then, apart from pluralism, you have finally the solidarity. You see, in an unequal society, if the sense of solidarity is absent, then there will be exploitation, there will be injustice. So the strong has to stand by the weak, rich stands by the poor, man stands by woman, and vice versa. Yeah? So that is how the society is built, through a sense of solidarity, where we help each other and share and care for each other in the society. That is broadly the progressive politics.
Absolutely, sir. In a world so divided in the digital age, I'm sure progressive politics is the only way forward, without being disintegrated into different paths.
That's right, correct.
So, sir, in a second strategically placed question, I would like to ask you, what is being political?
That's again a very interesting question. You know, a lot of people do not like politics. You know, politics is competitive, it is a place for skullduggery, and if you remember Bernard Shaw, he said politics is the last stage of scoundrels. So all kinds of epithets you have for politics, yet politics is important. And I tell my friends and comrades that you should remember the famous author Bernard Kirk, who wrote that legendary book called In Defense of Politics. And there he said, you know, you may not think of politics, but politics always thinks of you from womb to the tomb. That is, before you are born till you die, or after you die, politics relates to you. See, when you will be born, there are lots of, how you will be born, lots of medical care, and when you will die, there is a fight on creating a symmetry, you know. I was in Goa once and I came to know there was a major fight between two communities on the cremation ground, really. So, the place for burial of the dead. So, you see, that is again a political question, the crematorium, etc. So, politics affects us in all aspects of our life. So, we should be wary of the dynamics of politics and the consequences of political actions. If we are not, it is at our own peril.
Absolutely, sir. So how do you suggest a normal country people who are not directly connected to any political movement or anything that they do not directly see as political, identify and understand it rationally as being political? What should be their approach to identify their political stance in every different matter of their life?
Right. You see, there is a difference, fundamental difference between being party political and being political.
Right.
See, every citizen is political because you are mandated to vote in elections. It is not compulsory yet, but certainly you have the scope and the right to cast your vote and choose your representatives. So that is one political right and responsibility bestowed on the citizens by the Constitution. But party political is where, when people say don't politicize it, what they mean is that they don't party politicize it. Look at it politically, as a citizen from the point of view of Constitution and other aspects of politics. But party politics is partition. You score points there. You look at political mileage and all. So that is also inevitable in a democracy. But that can be avoided. Everybody need not be a party political, meaning every member need not join a political party, and they are not. There are people who are not the members of any political party. So being political means being involved, being engaged, participate, react, protest, support. These are political actions. So that is being political. And you cannot be apolitical. There is no room for being apolitical. I think it is Aristotle who said that everybody is a social animal. So I would say in a democracy, everybody is a political animal.
Absolutely,
Yeah?
sir. Can you explain to our audience what do we mean by being politically correct?
Yeah, that could be subjective, but it can also be objective, meaning we have a constitution which stipulates the laws, how we should govern ourselves, and constitution is the pillar of our democracy, the fundamental reference point. But since it's a big document, so many amendments, a number of articles, so everybody is not aware of the constitution. We have courts which give judgments on issues of justice. And then there are political discourse as well. So, and then a huge tradition of right and wrong in our country, which draw from our spirituality or religions. That's again a source of morality. So we have a concept of right or wrong. And in politics, we add the constitutionality into it. Then added with morality and legality, that becomes politically correct. So which is legal as well as moral, which is, I would say, in democracy, in political lexicon, which is democratic. If it is legal and if it is democratic, that is politically correct.
As we can see, sir, the youth in our country or even worldwide in this digital age is being moved towards a very toxic cancel culture, because everybody, as you said, has a very subjective approach to being politically correct. And that subjective approach to this political correctness has led to cancelling everything all over the internet these days. What do you have to say about that?
Right, internet is a wonderful invention, very powerful instrument for disseminating news, information, and messages. You know, it democratizes the information network. Earlier, it was monopolized by big business houses which controlled the large, newspapers and television, etc. But everybody has access to a telephone, WhatsApp, and Facebook and what have you. So through that you can participate in an information, a larger information network. But then, everything has both sides, pros and cons as they say, and the cons of this is that a lot of fake news and disinformation takes place, and which can create social problems, unrest, and occasionally it can flare things up. So that is happening. But I think people are discerning now. A large number of people know if this is a fake news, or there are lots of gullible people as well, they get swayed. So now laws are brought forward to somewhat regulate the internet as well. In our country, there was a face-off with Twitter, that they had to take certain tweets back. But these agencies are intermediaries, they are a kind of interface between the people who give messages and who receive messages. They are intermediaries. So yes, the fake news which is potentially damaging, which can upset the social harmony or disturb peace in a society, such news should be discouraged and should be banned really. So some monitoring is necessary, but not a lot of regulation, and the spontaneity of news giving and news sharing will be lost.
Absolutely right, sir. So, what would you suggest the people should follow or adhere to the next step when they identify that something or someone is being politically incorrect?
Yeah. Yes, there are, in a democracy, there are several mechanisms to set things right. That is why democracy is supposed to be the best form of political systems. Like Churchill famously said, democracy may not be the best form, but give me a better one. Meaning, democracy is the aspiration of the people across the world, because this gives you a mechanism for self-correction. Self-correction is one, meaning one of your representatives, MLA or MP, is not behaving. Then when it comes to next election, then you can vote him out, vote that person out, him or her. That is one. Secondly, there are also talks in our country, and it has happened elsewhere, in particular in Britain, that you have a provision for right to recall. Even during the 5-year term or 4-year term of a member of parliament, if he is not being responsive or responsible, then he can be recalled by collecting 1/3 signatures from a constituency, from his voters. That is one mechanism. And a famous socialist ideologue in our country, Dr. Raman Lohiya, he used to say, in Hindi, of course, he was a votary of Hindi, he used to say that जिंदा कौम में 5 साल तक इंतजार नहीं करते, meaning the life community, they don't wait for 5 years, meaning you can protest, you can petition, you can take a delegation, these are the forms of expressing your displeasure or dissent in a democratic society. This is being curbed now, I know, people are a bit pessimistic about it, but these are fundamental rights provided by the Constitution. So right to protest, right to dissent is an essential part of democracy. Democracy is enriched through that process. So these are, and if you dissent and if you protest vigorously, then the government and political parties, they will heed your protest, because they are worried about people's mandate. They will have to go back to people. So citizens have several mechanisms, as I said, One is petitioning, protesting, dissenting, and outvoting, some undesirable leaders. So these are the means to correct the political incorrectness in society.
Beautiful, sir.
Yeah.
For the last question, sir, for such a vast subjective view of being politically correct, which, as you stated, changes from time to time as a society moves forward, how do you think the political correctness of a society is to be determined through consensus, code, or the constitution?
It's a mix of all really, because the courts are also the judges are wise people. They are kind of embodiment of justice. They are called in our language Nyayamurti, yeah, and they are addressed as Lord. My lordship. Lordship is the so another address to the God. So they are there. Plus the constitution. Yes, constitution is the main reference point. And again, the people's input, which comes from culture, tradition, and social values. So that is also important, because there are quite a few things which happen beyond the legal as well as constitutional jurisdiction. So everything is not constitutional really. If two people pick up a fight, yes, violence is prescribed in the constitution. But if there is an argument or something, constitution does not give solution to what they are arguing. So there, social and civilizational values also play a role. So every community, every society has a tradition of goodness and a sense of right and wrong. So they also have to be factored in. So depending on the situation, it is contextual purely. You will have to apply all of it. The courts, consensus, the constitution, all of it to see what is politically correct. And finally, I would say whatever is useful and good for the stakeholders, people involved in a particular issue. If it is good for them, it appeals to them, it gives them a feel-good factor, that is politically correct. That is also important. But it should be, the feel-good factor should apply to everyone, not that one person feels happy, the other person is injured. That will not work. So if there are occasions, when there is a feel-good factor. For example, we are very fond of cricket, and if our country wins a series, there is celebration across the community and everybody is happy. So there is a sense of pride for the whole country. So that's a feel-good factor. I mean, that's only on sports, but there are other occasions, festivity, celebrations, where people are happy. So the common pleasures, a shared feelings is who contributes to political correctness.
Right, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and information of such great importance with us and the audience.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Hope to see you soon in the next episode of Being Politically Correct.